Hello friends, my name is McKenna and welcome to the Knit Between the Lines, a knitting podcast. This is a podcast where I talk about what I'm spinning, what I'm knitting on, and any other crafty hobbies that I get up to. So grab whatever project you're working on and let's get into it. First things first, let's chat about what I am wearing today. This is the Staffin Lite by Clow from the Crebea. This is a test knit I actually completed for her and the pattern is live. So if you are interested in this t-shirt, I would head over to Ravelry and check out the pattern. This is a beautiful all over textured knit, including columns of 2x2 ribbing, a beautiful diamond brocade, and these beautiful faux baubles called Estonian buttons. It was an enjoyable knit. I loved knitting this for the test knit and I love wearing it. The fit is perfect. It is my ideal like high and tight t-shirt. I ended up using Sanduscar and Lena in their light yellow colorway, which is a completely plant-based fiber, so it's super great for summer. And this pattern comes in DK weight and fingering weight. Sanduscar and Lena is technically considered a DK weight. There's also options for short sleeves like I did, as well as long sleeves, and I believe a round neck and a V-neck option. I could be wrong though. Absolutely love knitting this test knit, absolutely love wearing it. I will be getting so much wear out of this summer. Even though it is a DK weight, the plant-based fiber makes it super breathable and I don't feel sweaty wearing it. So highly recommend. Check out this pattern on Ravelry, and you can also pop over to Rebecca's Instagram and she has a bunch of pictures and information about all of her different patterns. Also, I am sharing the office space today, so over in this corner is my husband Cameron. He's just hanging out playing some video games, so you might hear some tippy-tappy clacking on his keyboard and mouse, or him kind of walking in and out of the background. So he might stop in and say hi eventually, but he's just over there hanging out, so if you see someone kind of walking around in the background, it's just my husband Cameron. Okay, so let's jump into finished objects. I only have one finished object for today, and it's the much awaited Attune shawl by Andrea Mowry. I have been working on this project for a very long time. The yarn that I had chosen to knit for this project was Spincycle dyed in the wool, as well as Malabrigo sock in jasmine. So I was knitting with sport weight yarn and fingering weight yarn on super tiny needles, and there was like 300 stitches at one point, so it was definitely taking me a long time to get through, but I am absolutely obsessed with how it turned out, so let me grab it for you. I still have to weave in the ends and block this project, but I was just too excited to show you guys the finished object. So I guess it's not technically finished, but once I weave in the ends and block it, she will be completely done and ready for wear. So let me back up a little bit. She is so beautiful. I actually love how these stripes turned out from afar. It looks so cool, and I actually reduced the frequency of the striping down in the garter stitch section just to get a little bit of a difference. And this looks so pretty. Let me see if I can like put it on. It looks so cool on too. Oh my god, look at it! I love the like swooping of the triangle part. Oh, this is gonna be so great to wear in the fall and the winter. Because I chose a fingering weight and a sport weight, it's still pretty light even though it's a massive shawl. So this will be great for like fall when the temperature fluctuates a lot. So it'll be good to kind of keep me warm around my neck, but won't make me super hot and sweaty. But oh my god, this turned out so good! Sorry. Always gotta check yourself out in the viewfinder. But this turned out so good. I am actually obsessed. I know this took me so long to knit, but I'm actually super excited to potentially make a hand-spun version because this looks so good. I do like the striping because it kind of does give it a hand-spun effect to a degree, so it'll be super fun to like knit it with my own hand-spun. I'm obsessed. But this shawl has brioche as well as half fisherman's rib, and towards the bottom is just a simple garter stitch section. This is a very engaging knit because of all the texture, And I kind of like that it switches between brioche and half fisherman's rib throughout the whole project. So it kind of keeps, because once you start getting bored with brioche, you move into half fisherman's rib. And when you start getting bored of half fisherman's rib, you're moving into brioche. And then when you start getting tired of both of those, you go into the garter stitch at the end, which is kind of nice because you have so many stitches at the end of this that just doing the garter is kind of refreshing, because you can kind of kick through it a little bit faster than like half fisherman's rib and brioche. You are still technically knitting the garter stitch twice because you have 2 different colors, so you're kind of knitting 2 rows at a time, if that makes sense. But the garter stitch repeat is only a 2-row repeat, whereas the brioche and half fisherman's rib is a 4-row repeat. So I did 2 repeats throughout the entire shawl for the half fisherman's rib and the brioche ribbing repeat section. But when I got to the garter stitch, I still only did 2 repeats. But instead of there being 4 rows of each color, now there's only 4. And I really liked how the frequency of the color changes changed because of that. It kind of adds a little bit more visual interest, I think. And I wanted the color changes to happen. I wanted more of each color. I didn't want to do 8 rows so it matched the rest of the shawl, because then I was going to have less of each color, because I believe I have 3. I have like 3 repeats of like the whole 3 colors, so each color appears 3 times in the garter stitch section, because I think I only did 18 repeats instead of 20, because I wanted to finish it off with the darkest color, which is my Lathe. So I ended up doing 2 repeats, 4 rows total for each color in the garter section, because I wanted those colors to appear more frequently than if I would have done 8 rows, because I think it would have cut out more of each color. So I really like how it turned out. Total for the ribbing repeat, I did 20 repeats plus an additional repeat of rows 1 and 2. And then for the garter stitch, I think in Andrea's sample she did 20 of both. I ended up deciding just to do 18 because I wanted to finish with my darkest color, just because I liked the way that looked visually. So super happy with how this turned out. I cannot wait to see how much it grows when I block it. I just have to sit down probably this evening and force myself to weave in all these ends, because I changed colors. I have all of these ends to weave in, which is not terrible in the grand scheme of things because the sections are larger. It's just gonna be annoying, but it's not all that bad, to be completely honest. I can do it. I can do it, you guys. I believe in myself. But yes, this is my only finished object for this week, but it is a much awaited finished object, and I'm super excited to wear it this summer. I love how the striping turned out, and I'm very happy that I decided to stripe my colors rather than do them in big chunks. So goes to show that it's okay to rip out your project and start over if you decided you don't like how it's turning out. Okay, so now let's get into some works in progress. I do have a newly casted on project. This was the reward to myself for finishing my Attune shawl. It is the Doppio pullover by Seunghee Hong. I am using, of course, Explorer Knits and Fibers. Way back when we did, I think it was the Farmer's Market collection, is when I bought my yarn, but they ended up doing a Doppio knit along when they did their Iceland collection re-dye, mostly because a lot of people were kind of putting together their own Doppio kits, as well as the fact that they had a sample, or a couple samples of the Doppio made from their Iceland yarn, so they actually created kits for people to purchase, which I did purchase one. But I already had yarn in my stash, and as you guys know from several episodes ago, I was swatching for it, and I ended up not really liking the colors I had chosen. The Surrey, even though it was this beautiful bright blue, the marl was just a little too intense for me personally. I was really trying to force myself to like it, but the more I sat there and the more I felt unsure, I was like, oh, I just don't want to spend all this time knitting this sweater, and then I don't like it, and then I don't wear it. And I think one of you guys commented and said, if you really liked the yarn, you would have already casted it on by now. And that was kind of the push I needed to be like, okay, yeah, you're right. If I really did like my yarn choice, I would have already casted this on, and I would have been on my way. So I decided to hibernate the project, keep the yarn, and I didn't get rid of the bright blue yarn. I do want to keep it because I do like it. I think I just need to find the right project for it. So instead, when Explorer Knits ended up announcing their re-dye for the Iceland, I grabbed a new Surrey from that collection, and now I am obsessed with my project. So let me go over the yarn with you guys again before I show you my project. I'll show you the actual skeins. So this pattern is, at the end of the day, it ends up becoming a bulky weight sweater. So you can either do a DK weight or a worsted weight held with a mohair or a surrey, or you can hold 2 fingering weights and a surrey together to create the gauge, which I believe is 15 stitches and 22 rows. So I opted to go 2 fingering weights and a surrey because I really wanted to play with that marling effect that the Doppio is so known for, because the Doppio is great. You can go super high intense marl. You're okay. I already warned them that you're here.
Hello!
You will probably hear some video game reactions in the process of the podcast today. Back to what I was saying. So I wanted to play around with the marling effect of the Doppio. The Doppio is super great. You can kind of experiment with a high intense marl or a more low contrast marl. It really is great for your own personal style to play with that. So the yarn that I chose, 2 of them are from the EKF's Farmer's Market collection, and the other, my surrey, is from the Iceland redye, like I mentioned earlier. So the colors I chose for my first one is Catch of the Day. There we go. This is Catch of the Day, which is this really beautiful like blue-green, which I super love. This is one of my favorite colors to knit with right now, which I'm sure you've noticed from my Felix that I showed a while ago, which was also Explorer Knits and Fibers. So this is my first sock yarn, and then holding that together with this really beautiful variegated yarn. This is called Botanicals. So it has a bunch of different like blues, grays, greens. There's also like a slight pink and purple like speckling throughout here as well, which I really, really love. And then my surrey is Skogafoss, which is again another beautiful blue-green. The surrey is really pretty though, because throughout it, depending on the skein that you get, there could be threads of purple in it just based off of how the base was taking the dye during the process. I think like right here you can kind of see that there's a little bit of a purple situation. So together it's going to make my Doppio. So let me show you my swatch. So this is how my swatch turned out. And the marl is still pretty decent because of the fact that I have a super light and a super dark yarn, but the Skogafoss surrey really blends out that marl a lot more compared to my last swatch that had that really bright blue surrey over it. It kind of just exaggerated the marl a little too much for me. This very much softens it more. It still has the characteristic marl that I was going for, but it's a little more my speed, I think. So let me show you my actual project. A friend of mine from Knit Night, we had a movie night last night, so I got a ton of progress done on this. It's gonna be kind of hard to see because it's on a cable right now, but this is what I have so far. I know it is kind of hard to see. This is the front. I just finished the German short rows and I'm working on just the regular raglan increasing right now. This is the back. So you can definitely see the marl more. But I think like this is gonna look so nice. It's also so soft. I love surrey alpaca just because it is so freaking soft. This pattern is super great. I am knitting the size 5, which should give me roughly between 3 and 4 inches of positive ease. The pattern suggests 2 to 5 inches. And I think in the pattern she even mentions like if you're wanting a more fitted sweater to fit underneath like a jacket or a coat to head more towards the 2 inches. And if you're wanting more of a more comfortable loose fit to head more towards the 4 to 5 inches. So I have about a 45 to 46 inch bust depending on, you know, the day. So I am knitting the size 5, which I believe the end finished bust circumference is 49 inches. So that'll give me about 3 inches, which is like right in the middle, which I think will be great. I don't really have a more fitted sweater, so I think that'll be super fun to have one like this. This will be super great for the winter because it is so thick. And in Portland, we don't get super chilly here, but it does get colder. So this will be a great option to wear underneath like a light jacket if I don't want to wear like a super bulky jacket and still stay warm. The construction of this sweater is a compound raglan. And what that means is just the increases for the front and the back happen at a different rate than the sleeves, which causes like a curving of the raglan seams. And this just provides a kind of different fit for the raglan. A lot of people have described the ending fit of this sweater as more of a sweatshirt style, which obviously who wouldn't want a like fuzzy soft sweatshirt style sweater. Super excited to knit this. I do have more yarn to knit a second one if I do really like how this turns out. So I will keep you guys updated. I just cast this on like a few days ago and have already made so much progress. Because it's such a larger gauge and thicker yarn and a larger needle, it is going to absolutely fly off the needles. So I wouldn't be surprised if I cast on the second one relatively quickly after I finish this one. We'll have to see what vibes I'm feeling. But Doppio sweater, really love. I will have to keep you guys updated on how I like it. A lot of people really love this pattern, and I think it's just a fun way to play with color and marling. So if you're interested, give her a try. A lot of people really like it. I will keep you updated on my thoughts and feelings as I knit through it and I finish it, because right now the pattern is written very well, very easy to follow. She has an additional PDF that she sends with the pattern that talks about how to include like faux raglan seams, because these raglans are done with lifted increases rather than your typical make one right and make one left. So it's not as obvious. The raglan seams aren't as like a characteristic obvious, kind of like how this is a very statement raglan. This one is very understated. It's not easy to pick out, especially with all the marling that's happening, but she does give you the tools and the option to kind of make those raglan seams more pronounced if you want, which I probably will do on my second sweater if I choose to knit one. So great pattern, written very well, such a fun way to play with color and marling. So I will keep you guys updated in future podcasts. We'll have to see if I actually have this finished by the time of next episode. The only other work in progress I have for you guys is my Cozy Comfort Throw by a Homespun house, and I have made a little progress on this blanket, not very much. I've just finished the 8th mini skein and she's still looking beautiful. Not as much progress from last episode just because I was really trying to finish my Attune shawl because I was just ready for it to be done and I really wanted to cast on something new, but I wasn't letting myself until I finished it. So this one's not gotten nearly as much love in the last 2 weeks, but still looks great. I also went back and counted my stitches because I was curious how many more stitches I did cast on from the pattern. The pattern suggests casting on 215 stitches. I cast on an additional 30, so I'm hitting around 250 or 35 stitches. So I have 250 stitches for my blanket just to make it a little bit wider, and I'm still hitting the like 7 to 8 garter ridges, so we'll have to see what the proportions look like because it's pretty skinny and it's a small throw. Like it's more of just a lap blanket at the end of the day, and it's kind of skinny and long. So I think this will kind of end up making it more of a square, which isn't a bad thing. But if I don't end up liking the proportions, I can always just rip this out, like wind it back into like one big cake with all the yarns and start over and cast on the correct number of stitches. But I am really liking how it's turning out so far. I love that it's a fade, but yeah, not much progress on this as of right now. I have just knitted through the 8th mini skein, so we will be winding up number 9 soon and getting that going. But yeah, Cozy Comfort Throw, she's still hanging out in the background, getting a little love every now and then. Eventually she will be finished. I do hope to finish this before Advent season because I do have a Advent coming from the Knotty Pine Fiber Co. for their Homestead Advent, which is supposed to be very like a homestead quilty kind of color scheme. She gave you the option of getting the Advent with 5 additional 100-gram skeins of DK yarn or sock weight yarn in order to do the Sweet Shop blanket from Laura Penrose. So I opted for that option because I love the Sweet Shop blanket. I think it's really cute, and I kind of loved the inspiration pictures for the color scheme for this Advent, so I think it'll look really nice. So I'm trying to finish this blanket first, so when I get the Advent and it's Advent season, I can really actually participate in like opening the yarn and knitting the square and everything, so I can like at the end of December I actually have like a full blanket. So I will be getting more, or I will be giving more energy and time to this project now that my Attune shawl is finished. This will probably become my TV knitting, and then my Doppio will probably be like knit nights and bar knitting and all that jazz. So, and now let's get into some spinning updates. So I am participating in Tour de Fleece, and I do have some progress to show you guys. Last episode I got to show you the fiber that I was thinking of working with, and after some comments on the video, as well as working with some of my friends in several different Discord groups that I'm a part of, everyone pretty much affirmed my idea that these colors would look super great together as a 3-ply combo spin for a traveler shawl by Andrea Mowry. I am super excited to be participating in Tour de Fleece. This is my first time ever participating. Last year I had just bought my wheel after Tour de Fleece had ended, so I didn't get a chance to participate. I wasn't proficient enough in spindle spinning at the time. I also don't really enjoy spindle spinning as much, so I was really excited to get to participate this year. So my challenge for myself for Tour de Fleece is super low stress. I'm not part of a team necessarily. I'm more just like challenging myself, which is to spin every day. It doesn't matter how long. I'm not restricting myself to a certain amount of time every day because I do have a full-time job. So it's really easy for me to spin for several hours on the weekend. Not very much when I work a full-time shift and then I come home and I need to like chill out for a little bit and like do things around the house and everything. So I can't do as much spinning during the week when I get home from work. But that being said, I do have progress for you guys. So Tour de Fleece started on July 5th. It is now July 13th, so it's just under 10 days that we have been spinning for Tour de Fleece, and I have completely spun 2 out of my 3 braids. I will pop a picture up here to remind you guys of the color scheme that I am going with. So I have 2 out of the 3 braids completely spun for my singles. So the first one that I did was At the Shore from Yarn Jam on their natural Shawnee base, which is a cross from Rambouillet and Merino. So far, the Shawnee has been my favorite breed or base to spin. It's just super fluffy, super soft, and an absolute pleasure to spin with. So here is my first bobbin, which was At the Shore. She looks so good. I was genuinely pretty surprised on how this turned out. It very much gives more of a like watercolory pastel vibe than I was expecting, and I think that has a lot to do with the amount of white that was actually in the braid. It very much reminds me of one of Claude Monet's Water Lilies paintings, which I will pop up here as well so you can kind of see where I'm pulling that inspiration from. But absolutely am in love with how this turned out. I'm also extremely proud with how fine I was able to spin this, because I am hoping for a sport weight. I don't know if that'll end up being what is done, considering it is a 3-ply. It might end up being a very light DK, but I am very proud of myself for how consistent I am and how fine I was able to spin, because I've only been spinning for a year and my first yarn was terrible. Very thick, very thin, super like everywhere. So the fact that I can now, after a year, be spinning very consistently and thinly is just insane to me. Like, the amount of progress I've seen just makes me very happy and very proud of myself. So, needless to say, if your first couple skeins suck and it's super thick and super thin and really bad, keep going, because you will figure it out and you'll get there. And I didn't even spin consistently for the last year. I kind of flip-flop between hobbies. I go from being super into spinning to super into knitting to super into reading, so I wasn't spinning all the time every day. But progress will happen if you just continue to practice. So this is my first bobbin. I love how it turned out, and it's so funny because this is so different from my next bobbin, which is also from Yarn Jam. It is their Spring Break colorway, also on their natural Shiniko base, and this bobbin turned out way more color blocky and not nearly as blended as the other braid. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that the color sections were way more thick and way more distinct. So even though I split the braid into 4, the color blocks were so large that it really kept those colors intact and they didn't blend as much between each other. Because this one was more of a splotchy kind of dye. There wasn't necessarily distinct color sections, so they all kind of blended together and gave a more watercolory vibe, whereas this one is way more color blocky, which I really love, and I think they still go together, but this will give a lot of contrast next to this one, which I think will be super great. But again, super proud of myself with how thin and consistent I was able to spin this. The amount of progress I've made is just like bewildering to me and makes me super happy and super excited just to keep spinning and keep making progress and pushing myself and challenging myself with spinning. So 2 bobbins are down for Tour de Fleece, and the fact that I was able to spin 2 whole braids in 10 days, it's kind of wild to me. It is a lot of spinning, and anyone out there who is spinning a sweater quantity for Tour de Fleece, I applaud you, because 3 braids is a lot for me to spin, and I can't imagine 6 up to 8 braids for a sweater spin, so I applaud you. That is amazing. So I only have 1 more braid left to spin for Tour de Fleece, which is the exclusive color for Flock in 2024 from Hello Lavender, which I do have in front of me. So in order to prep for this, I actually went through and I steamed all of the braids. That was suggested to me by someone in one of my Discord groups, because apparently when dyers dye up braids and then they braid them all up to like make them nice and compact to sell, if they sit in that state for a really long time, it compacts the wool, and it kind of makes the spinning experience really hard because the wool is all compacted together rather than being nice and open and fluffy. Makes the drafting process really hard. So someone suggested that I go through and I steam all of my braids just to like really open up the fiber, and I was shocked with how much it opened up, and it really did make the spinning experience so much more enjoyable. So this is the exclusive colorway from Flock 2024 from Hello Lavender. It is 100% Rambouillet, so super soft, super fluffy. Even though there's not any merino content in here, it does have that Rambouillet characteristic as well, so it'll still go really nicely with my 2 other bobbins. Out of the 3, this one has the most color changes in it. So you can see that the color sections are super small in this. So when I spin this, I anticipate it to be a very blended yarn, which I think will be great because I think it'll kind of marry the 2 bobbins really well. So it's just so funny to me how the end yarn can look so different from the actual braid itself, because everyone spins differently and the colors blend, and there's no way for you to really know how it's going to turn out. So I'm super excited to spin this up and see how it looks, and I can't wait to ply these together and see how the finished 3-ply combo spin looks. I think it's going to look really good, and I'm really excited. I think it's going to be really pretty in the Traveler Shawl. I think I should be able to finish by the end of Tour de Fleece, because I think Tour de Fleece ends, I want to say July like 27th, I think is the last day. So I still have a good like 2 weeks. Oh yeah, literally I have 2 weeks from today, because today is Sunday, July 13th. I have 2 weeks from today to finish up my last braid, ply it all together, wash it, thwack it, let it dry. I think I can do it, you guys, because I have been spinning at least a little bit every day if I can. So fingers crossed, I think I can do it. I think you can do it too if you're also doing Tour de Fleece. I believe in you, and we're gonna crush this. This has been such a fun experience. I got to meet up with some friends up at the park here in Portland, and we've started spinning in the park for the summer, which is super fun. Here's a picture of all of us just spinning in the park, hanging out, and it was really great. Not everyone's participating in Tour de Fleece in the group that met up, but it was super fun. It was super fun and motivating to meet up with other spinners and see what they're spinning on and just chat and be in a beautiful space. The weather was beautiful, the company was beautiful and very nice and welcoming, and it just was such a great experience. So highly recommend finding a community as well to spin with, because it really does make all the difference. Okay, I do actually have one new acquisition for this podcast, and that is a kit from Spincycle for Andrea Mowry's new shawl pattern, the Nightlight Shawl. The Nightlight Shawl is a shawl version essentially of her night and day cowl that she released a little while ago. It has this really cool visual checkered pattern to it, and I really loved Andrea's sample. I really loved the like blue-green kind of color palette, and Spincycle had put together several kits for the Nightlight Shawl, and one of them was Andrea's original color palette, so I snagged it because I was actually obsessed with it, and I will go over the yarns with you right now. So the dark yarn in the shawl is the Nightshades yarn from Harrisonville, and essentially what it is a Shetland base, right? Oh, sorry, it's not Shetland. It is a American Cormo, and they basically just take the natural fiber, like the natural fiber itself, and then they blend it with other colors to achieve kind of different shades. So the Nightshades is the dark fur, and then the regular, I don't remember the name of it, but they have a lighter version of it as well, where it's just like the natural fur, and then they blend it in with other colors to get different shades. So even though this looks really dark, there's actually, it's blended with a dark green, so it's almost like a green black instead of just a straight black, and I really, really like it. I think this colorway is called VCR. Yeah, and it's so dark it's hard to tell, but like it has like a green tint to it, which I think is so cool. And it's a woolen spun, so it's super lightweight and like super rusticy feeling, which is, I love the texture of it. I have not been able to work with this yarn before, so I'm really excited to kind of get my hands on it. Harrisonville was at Rhinebeck the year that I went, and I almost grabbed some, but I ended up deciding not to. So I'm super excited to get my hands on it and work with it for this shawl. Let's see, yeah, it's American Cormo and wool. It's approximately 250 yards per 100 gram, and it's considered a DK weight. And it looks like it's grown in Montana and spun in New Hampshire. So we love that. And my Spincycle that I got in the kit that Andrea Mowry used is Light Years Dream State. I love Light Years. This is the first time I'm using it, but I've always really liked it because I'm a sucker for green. I love most shades of green. So this has a lot of like lime greens, minty greens, there's a bunch of blues, and then there's also yellows and oranges and chartreuses in there. And I think that this is one of the more subtle dream states from Spincycle, but it still has a great variety of color shifting in it as well. So I think it's gonna look super cool. I think the knitting experience is gonna be so fun because of just like the way you have to knit it to create that checkered pattern. I think it's gonna be super fun. I love shawls where you kind of knit it sideways and they're long rather than like getting super wide in a triangle, because you have less stitches to work with, if that makes sense. So like the Attune shawl, at the end of it, I had like 300 stitches on my needles. When you knit it sideways and it's more of a long scarf, you don't have nearly as many stitches on your needles at once, so it's a lot easier to knit because it doesn't take you as long to get through each row. It's very similar to like the Sophie shawl by Petite Knit. Like that is also pretty easy to knit. It's DK weight, and you don't have, the stitch count does not get ridiculously high, so it doesn't take you as long each row at the end, if that makes sense. So I already have skeins wound up for this to start knitting on it, mostly because it is a very toasty 90 degrees here in Portland. So knitting on my bulky weight Doppio is not my favorite right now because it's very, very hot. So I wound these up to work on like at knit nights or in the car for right now because it is so hot, and this won't feel as disgusting in my hands and my lap in 90 degrees. Also, non-yarny acquisition. I have gotten my hands on a Labubu, and this is the cutest thing I've ever seen in my whole life. This is from the Have the Seat series, and this is Cece, which is like the butter yellow, like super like squinty-eyed excited little Labubu, and I am obsessed. I think this is the cutest thing I've ever seen. And Look at him. Look, we matched today too. That's so funny. So this is another new acquisition, and Mckenzie from emtothethird has just released a pattern set of Labubu knits that you can knit for your Labubu, and I will be doing that immediately. I plan to be knitting a set of overalls in this really pretty like pastel color changing yarn. I think it'll look so cute on him. Oh my god. My husband also, I got him a Labubu as well, and his is the gray version of this one. And he's also requested a pair of overalls for his Labubu, as well as a friend of his at work. So I will be knitting Labubu clothes in the future, and we'll be updating you guys on that as well. So I love him. Super excited to have him. I already have a couple more pre-ordered and in the mail. So okay, so now that's all I have for works in progress, FOs, spinning, and acquisitions, so let's get into some life stuff. I have actually just finished reading the One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns from Rachel Gillig. It's a duology from Rachel Gillig. It was her like debut series or duology as an author, and a lot of people really liked it, so I was very interested in reading it. And you guys, it really is as good as they say it is. It's very much more of a, it's not, I wouldn't describe it as necessarily dark per se, but it has more of a gothic inspiration, I guess, to it. And it's, the magic system itself was just so unique compared to what I have read in the past. It was really nice to read something like new and a new concept, because I feel like a lot of fantasies can have very similar, not themes, but like magic systems, like the way that the magic works in the universe that it's set in, and like fairies and like all the mythical creature kind of situations. It can feel very recycled after a while, so it was really great to like read a new book with a fresh new concept and the way things kind of worked within the universe. So I highly recommend it. They're a very quick read. Each book I think is only like 400 pages, if that. So super fast read. It's only 2 books. It's finished. So highly recommend it. It was very, very good. I very much enjoyed it. As of right now, I am currently reading Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This is a spin-off series from her Caraval trilogy, and Once Upon a Broken Heart is also a trilogy. The books are also pretty short as well. I just started reading it, and I'm really enjoying it so far. It is definitely, it has a very similar vibe as Caraval, but it's not the same plot, like, at all. But it kind of has a similar vibe to it, which makes sense. It's the same author, and it's all kind of happening in the same universe. So one of the antagonists in Caraval is now one of the main characters in this trilogy, and we have a new female main character, we have a new setting and all of the stuff, new plot and everything. So super great. I am really enjoying it so far. I'm not super deep into it yet, but I've heard really good things about the series. So a lot of people said they enjoyed this one a lot more than Caraval, and Caraval was not my favorite personally, so I do have high hopes for this one. So I'll keep you guys updated on when I finish it and the next couple books as well. Alright guys, that's all I have for you today. Today was a pretty short episode compared to ones in the past because I'm finally caught up with you guys. I'm trying to stay on a more consistent schedule, so now I don't have as many things to talk about because now I'm keeping you guys up to date as things are happening. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope to continue filming and keeping you guys updated on all my projects, all of my spinning, and all of the things happening in my life. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. You could also click that bell icon to get notifications for when I post in the future. Thank you all for stopping at my little crafty corner of YouTube and sharing your time with me today. See you next time. Bye.